Hi, this is Zak Mir with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zaks Traders Cafe for Friday the 6th of June, starting off with the FTSE 100, which is now above its previous 8,700, 8,800 range, so we've got a bit of a cushion of 20 points or so, above 8,800, looking for 9,000 hopefully by the end of this month, so accelerating the potential move to record highs. Obviously that takes out the old March resistance, which was rather undermined by the tariff debacle that we had in April. Below 8,800, the downside now seen as being no lower than 8,700, so rather simple charting there. Moving on to the DAX, where we've been hoping that this market will head to the top of its rising trend channel from last year, level there around 24,700. We're looking for that while we remain above the recent gap area around 24,100, but ideally, and we probably can't make it tighter than 23,700 as support and 24,700 as possible target there. Moving on to the Dow, which has had us on the edge of our seats in recent sessions, waiting for a break through that resistance line there, which obviously didn't happen yesterday. Disappointing given the way that the 50 and 200 day lines are both rising at the moment, and the RSI is still in a good place at 56, so that tends to be the area in the 50s where rallies will start. We already had a bounce of RSI at RSI 50. The main plus point at the moment, though, is that even though we didn't break, or haven't been able to break that February resistance line, 42,500, we're still within that rising red trend channel from last May, and as long as we're above 42,000, feeling that we can break 42,800, which is post-March resistance, and then head higher. Moving on to Bitcoin, where more and more companies have their fate tied into the fate of Bitcoin, given that they become Bitcoin treasury strategy companies. We were assuming or factoring in that this market would need to test the 50-day line, which is exactly what it did yesterday. That's now up to 100,000, and above that, still looking for a retest of the best levels, 112,000, and maybe by the end of next month up to as high as the price channel top there from last year, up to 123,000. On the downside, the 50-day line obviously has been tested. Now the worst is the 200-day line at 95,000. So yesterday's rug pull not very helpful to the cause. Moving on to gold, and here it's been a situation where 3,400 seems to be blocking progress. We've broken that resistance line there from April, but haven't been able to really push forward as one would have expected. But at least while we're above the floor of that rising March trend channel, 33.30, we're looking for a push to the upside, and perhaps as high as 3,800 by the end of next month at the top of that channel. Downside at the moment seen as being the 50-day line, which is currently 32.56. RSI at 55, so in a good place still for a move to the upside. Onto the stocks, and speaking of Bitcoin and Bitcoin bandwagon situation is Anemoi, which has seamlessly changed its strategy, or added to its existing strategy, to be fair. Here we've got a potential broadening triangle, top of the triangle there, top at 0.9 pence. So that's probably the best we're looking for at the moment. We've already had our big spike. End of day close above recent resistance around 0.68 would be a proper trigger for a push to the upside rather than just a one-day wonder. Moving on to Blue Star, and here, good consolidation here above the initial target, which was around 12.8 pence, and also finding support at the old resistance there from back in January at 14 pence. So above that 14 pence area, looking for a retest of the best levels, 22, 23 sometime later this month. Moving on to Bluebird, where the charting call and the tweet got lucky yesterday, and it's getting even luckier today. We were looking for 0.55 according to that tweet, and that's exactly what we got at the moment. So round of applause for myself. Looking for the top of that falling trend channel at 0.8, hopefully later this month. It's nice to see that shares have filled the gap and kept that bear trap gap reversal, which is one of our favorite setups. So 0.8 on the cards, especially while we're above the old January support there at 0.38. We're obviously likely to stay above the 0.45 level now, given that that's today's low so far. Moving on to Cordel or Cordel, and here unfilled gap to the upside this week. Initial target here up to 9 pence, which is obviously quite boring, the top of that rising trend channel. But best case scenario is up to 12 pence, hopefully by the end of this month. I think the gap higher is very positive, as is the way that the 50 and 200 day lines are both rising. So we're going into a golden cross, and the run up to a golden cross is by definition the strongest part in the cycle. Upside bounded while we're above the 200 day line at 6.65 pence. Story of the day, and probably the story of the last 10 years, is HUI, given that they found their waste to hydrogen technology partner, and it works and they're ready to go. Tweeted out earlier today that above 1.8, which is above that resistance line there from December, looking for 3.5. Obviously that's been exceeded. Above 3.5 on an end of day close basis, looking for 5 pence, hopefully later this month. Ideally, there's no price action now back below the 200 day line at 2.75 pence. We haven't been above the 200 day line since back in August, so this is a decent change, and it's interesting to see the market responding properly. The final point here is that this is a bear trap island reversal, because we gapped twice on the way down, and we've had an unfilled gap to the upside on the right side, so those tend to be the biggest charting movers. On to Iofina, which I interviewed a few weeks ago, and after a little pause for thought, the share seemed to be ready to head higher. 30 pence, the top of that rising trend channel, and I'm actually looking for up to 36 pence or 37 pence by the end of next month. A nice breakout here after many months of trying through 24 pence, above 24, up to 36 on Iofina. On to Insig Ai, where been on the case almost since the start, because the fundamentals were looking good anyway, but the current situation is that having broken the main 18-19 pence resistance zone, we've headed towards the third target, which is 41 pence. We're gapping towards that today, and above the second target there at 31 pence, looking for 41 or 42 pence, well before the end of this month. Moving on to ITM Power, which has been glorious in the recent past, especially earlier in the week when we went through 90 pence. Current situation is having a go at retesting the best levels. So the best levels during the week, 94.5, and above one of the previous targets there at 71 pence. That's where we expect the shares to go by the end of this month. Moving on to Ironveld, which has been rather quiet until recently, when the things seem to have livened up a lot, and we've got what I call a V-shaped bull flag, unfilled gap to the upside today, and looking obviously for a retest of that 0.063 resistance line projection target. I suppose overall the best case would be up towards the post-May 2024 resistance at 0.076 by the end of next month, or even sooner. So let's see if that marker can be hit in that time frame. Only back below 0.05 on an end of day close basis below today's gap really upsets the idea of a push to the upside, and we've also had an RSI 50 rebound to back the latest move. Onto a stock which I don't think I've ever covered before, Pinewood Technologies. Maybe it's changed its name from something else, but here you can see that we've had a nice spike to the upside. Top of the channel that here looks to be £5.20, which hopefully could be delivered by the end of this month, while we're above the breakout zone, 426 pence. So a bit of a different type of stock there to go for, 400 million market cap. So that is not like most of the minnows we look at. On to United Oil and Gas, where been calling the shares up to 0.2 for quite some time, and it looks as though we could actually get to the top of that rising trend channel, the red resistance line projection, by the end of this month, especially while we're above the 200-day line there at 0.13. So very simple, above 0.13, looking for 0.2 by the end of June. You can see that the main resistance in the near term is up to the 0.16 level, but we do have a gap to fill up to 0.19 as well. So hopefully that will act as a magnet for the price action. On to the last two. First one is Wishbone Gold, which is back in business. And here I've got the feeling of a rising trend channel base. We got the 50-day line rising, And so that's what I call a sideways shuffle, and normally sideways shuffle, these lead to big spikes to the upside. We had a bit of that at the beginning of May. So hopefully back to the top of the range towards 0.27 by the end of June, while we're above the 50-day line, 0.15. On to Zoo, and here you can see that we have potentially a rising trend channel base. Nice bounce today, an extended move along that uptrend line. Looking for the shares to retest the February resistance there, around 19 pence by the end of this month. But the key is obviously staying above that 9 pence level. That's it from me today. More updates over the weekend.